so often if I looked at myself 7 years ago and I considered myself a Christian,
Right.
I'd be like, oh, wow, I was not there at all. And even though in my own mind I thought maybe I'm kind of there, looking back now, I'm like, I was not even close. And even prior to being a Christian, there would have been a lot of people who would have written me off as a human being because it's like, oh, you live this lifestyle, you do this and that. And what I love about God is he doesn't necessarily look at us as in the right now. He's actually so forward thinking that he's like, well, this is what you are now, but I've got a journey that I'm taking you on. And by the time I'm finished, I know what you'll become. And that's why I think God can be in love with the people, not because of who we are, but what we can ultimately become in him. And Jacob really puts that on display in the book of Genesis. We're going from a homebound, mama's boy kid who's being deceptive in his attempts to get some sort of thing that will kind of benefit him. But ultimately God goes, yeah, that's you now, but there's going to be a whole process, and what you ultimately become is what I love. And that only happens because of the things that I see now that I can actually draw out of you, which is again, this idea of like, generational is important.
Yeah. And if you think about like the best, like the most influential people in your life, the people who like
Mm,
really saw something in you,
mm.
it's always people who are able to recognize that
Potential.
yeah, exactly. They can see past your weaknesses and find
Mhm.
your strength. And that's what
Mhm.
God does for us, right? So
Yeah.
I remember I was in I was in high school, the best teacher I ever had, um, a Hasidic rabbi, amazing teacher. And there was, one time in class, early in high school, where he was saying something I didn't agree with, like I really, really disagreed with. And so I kind of spoke up and I was pretty rude.
Mm.
And I started like getting all hot and bothered. Now, a worse teacher would have, yelled at me or sent me to the principal or whatever it is, or kicked me out of class. I'll never forget. After class, he came up to me privately
Mm.
and he said, uh, I take it you disagree with me, but having an opinion is a privilege, not a right.
Mm.
And if you want to disagree with me, you need to read more. And so he said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy books for you that support your opinion, that I
Mm.
disagree with, but support your opinion.
Mm.
If you read them, we'll talk about them together and let's have a conversation. Never to this day, I still have those books. He bought those books for me,
Mm.
read them. And what I used to do is I used to very frequently cut class. Like I would just skip class, but I wouldn't skip class to like go see a movie. I'd skip class to go to the teacher's lounge and just argue with him and
Mm.
talk about books and not that I'm like a great guy or anything, but he was able to see that the strength in me was that I was curious.
Mm.
I don't have a lot of strengths, but that is one. And this teacher was able to see that even though I was both rude, immature, and
Mm.
skipping class,
Mm.
he was able to see that underneath those
There was something beautiful that could be drawn out.
there was something there.
Mhm.